Are you looking for a fun way to win up to 25 times your money this football and basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select two or more players, pick more or less on their projections for a wide variety of stats, and place your entry. It's as easy as that. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and injury insurance on your picks are what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Ready to test your skills? Join the PrizePicks community of more than 7 million players who have already signed up. Right now, PrizePicks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/bluewire and use code BLUEWIRE. That's code BLUEWIRE at prizepicks.com/bluewire for a first deposit match of up to $100. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Pod Maverick After Dark, though it's actually mid-afternoon. It's about 5 o'clock here in Dallas time. It is October 10th, and earlier today, probably about an hour ago, the Dallas Mavericks fell to Real Madrid, 127-123. I'm joined by fellow editor over at Mavs Moneyball. Doesn't come on the show much because he also does a lot of work for Forbes magazine, and I don't make him appear on video too often. It's Doyle Rader. How are you, Doyle?
Howdy, I'm good.
Well, we're really glad you joined us. Josh had something pop up last minute. He was going to do the show by himself. I was actually at the Texas State Fair today, and instead of doing nothing, we ended up just talking it out, and Doyle and I are going to do a quick podcast now. I'm probably not going to do a group therapy later just because I wasn't prepared. I didn't watch the game, and that will sort of I was following along on my phone at the State Fair, which was definitely not cool. My wife was certainly annoyed with me on that one, but I couldn't help myself. Kind of like looks, just from my understanding of the game and from what I was able to follow online and through the Gamecast is, Luka came out, only played 5 minutes, scored 9 points in 5 minutes. The Mavericks are concerned about a calf strain, and they had to keep him. They basically came to an agreement that he's going to play a little and then sit out the rest of the game. That led the Mavericks to play a lot of Dante Exum because Kyrie Irving is already out. Grant Williams got a chance to play a whole heck of a lot, and then you kind of go down the bench. And it looks like from my kind of read that Kid just kind of mixed and matched with all sorts of different guys. Do you have any sort of like bigger picture takeaways beyond the fact that it's really fucking annoying that we lost to an overseas team and we can no longer hold that over the Phoenix Suns who lost to a Australian team, I think, last year?
Yeah, I mean that's the big takeaway. And just as an aside, as a former and sometimes current employee of the State Fair of Texas, it is the State Fair of Texas, not the Texas State Fair.
Sorry, that's elite. You're right. No, you're correct. That's the State Fair of Texas. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, this is an embarrassing loss. It's only Real Madrid's third win ever in 9 games over an NBA team, especially one of this caliber. I know Luka only played 5 minutes, but
I mean, they have real guys. Like all the roster,
Yeah, but they gave up. Like they were up by 10, and then they just blew the lead late. Like I know it's like the end of the bench guys, but come on, play with some pride. You're playing against a EuroLeague team. Like you're supposed to win. Like they're former NBA guys are in their like late 30s and 40s. They're like our age, man.
Well, and see, that's why that is specifically why these Mavericks lost, and I can tell you that without even needing to have seen the end of the game. Veteran savvy beats out youthful exuberance every fucking time in a close game. So Like I know, like Josh McSwain there is like Facundo Campazzo. Like the dude played in the NBA for a while. You have Sergio Lowe. You have gosh, I forgot that they had Gershon Yabusele, who is just a mountain of a human being. Former Celtic himself, like I think Eddie Tavares, who is 7'3", 275, like 270 pounds. You got which Hazonia is this? Oh gosh, they have Mario Hazonia. Like this is not a team of scrubs.
No, not at all. It's
the guys at the end of the bench. Yeah, I did say Colton in the chat says I didn't. Kirk just admitted that he didn't watch the game. Yes, I did, and I wasn't playing. We had an emergency, guys. Again, Josh was going to do the recap. Something popped up. I apologize. But it's not shocking to me they lost once Luka and Kyrie weren't playing. Like that was kind of that was the first thought was, oh shit, we're gonna have to talk about this because Real Madrid's gonna beat them.
Yeah, and they did. So I don't know if there's a ton of takeaways from this game outside of the fact that they got beat and it got away from them. There was some good moments. There were some bad moments, but like a lot of people are prone to say it's preseason. It doesn't matter that much. But when you compile these 3 games, they've, the 2 in, Abu Dhabi against the Wolves, and then this one here against Real Madrid, the Mavericks really haven't shown a whole lot.
Vibes are secretly really fucking bad.
Yeah.
Patrick Sweden in the chat notes 9 former NBA players on Real Madrid, and that it's. I wish they would have won for the narrative, but I'm not. I'm not surprised that they lost. Now, what is a little interesting to me is the Grant Williams of it all. So Grant Williams within Mavs Moneyball, I don't think we've really communicated this a lot. Grant Williams has provoked some truly divisive takes from our staff. We have our one guy, Matthew, who writes a lot for us. Note he seems to think that Grant Williams really is not capable of much, particularly in terms of dribbling, passing, just anything outside of kind of catch and shoot on offense, and can be a solid defender. Well, Grant Williams, and I'm just kind of looking at the box score. Grant Williams seems to have had perhaps the best or second best all around game of any Maverick. 8 points. 9 rebounds, 4 assists, a pair of blocks, and a steal. Like that's a pretty good playmaker role for him. And if he's able to give Dallas sort of any sort of spark in the regular season where he can, not only grab rebounds, which is delightful, but able to handle the ball just a little bit, that is going to be nice. Like I don't have high expectations for him. My hopes for him is that he fills the Dorian Finney-Smith role, but if he can do more, and it seems, at least looking at a game like today, there's certainly the ability there. That's kind of exciting, right?
Yeah, and, I'm not the biggest fan of Grant Williams. I think you look back at the playoffs, especially the last series that the Celtics had, he was awful. He was awful.
I was not happy. Yeah, he was the one. On the one hand, he was the only guy willing to take it to Jimmy Butler. On the other hand, Jimmy Butler lit him on fire. But Jimmy
absolutely lit him on fire. Like almost like it was comical how badly he got played off the floor. And that's a real possibility. I think he can do. He can do NBA things, obviously. But yeah, what he turns into with the Mavericks, he played how many minutes today? 24 or something. Yeah.
Yeah,
almost 25 minutes, but only 8 points. I think I'd like to see more from that, especially when you have, your 2 best players not on the floor. I know Tim Hardaway Jr. bogarts the ball and takes every shot imaginable, and he did today. What was it, 19 shots he took? Yeah, which fine, whatever. That's what he does. I'd like to see Grant get the ball more. I mean, I don't necessarily want to see him create or do anything too crazy, but you got to get him more than 8 points. I like the rebounding. Mavericks need more rebounding. That was a big issue last year and the year before. Every year. If he can be a wing who rebounds, let's just say 6+ a game, that's incredible. That's incredible because Luka's usually the leading rebounder. And we don't know who's going to be the center that steps up, really. We think Lively will probably start for a little bit. I think Powell will probably usurp him and get back his starting role just based on his experience. or maybe, yeah. But rebounding, that's great. That's great that he does it, but still, I don't know what to think about him. I think he's going to be a frustrating player at times. But who isn't on the Mavericks? That's kind of their thing.
The thing that I'm sort of been focusing on, and I don't like, we're in this box, and the people, you got a bunch of people that are watching the show, people who listen to this. We're at this point in the season. We're really excited to talk about basketball. We want to enjoy and overreact to stuff. The real problem with what we're running into is that if Kyrie and Luka aren't playing, ultimately none of this fucking matters. If Kyrie is not playing, none of this matters. Luka can only do so much. We saw it. He made it till the end of December, and then he was at the end of the year. So as I'm watching these games, and I'll go back and watch this one later tonight, I recorded it. You're looking for sort of individual things that guys can do within the scope of what Kyrie Irving and Luka already showed they could do offensively. We're going to circle back and talk a little bit at the end about like the way the Luka news came out, sort of the decision as a whole. But when I'm watching these games, I'm really looking forward to see what Grant Williams does and overreact to it. I sort of hope that the Lively thing sticks because, look, he played 20 minutes. He grabbed 6 boards, had 6 points, also had 5 fouls. I don't care if he fouls out. I just don't. Play him till he fouls out. Play him as much as as possible. He's got to learn. And, he's faced in his 3 NBA games so far, he has faced centers that are 7-2, 7-2, and 7-3. And some days are going to be rough at the office. I mean, did you watch any of the Oklahoma City Spurs preseason game from last night?
No, I didn't see it.
I mean, Wemby and our other gentleman in Oklahoma City already, they went to work. So there's no easy days for Lively. That's okay. He's just going to have to learn. And I've liked what I've seen. And if he can give Dallas a little bit, I'm going to be excited about it. Now, one thing I am excited about from this game is Dante Exum's 13 points and, more importantly, 9 assists and 1 turnover to that 9 assists. So obviously, the guy came into the league as a point guard. Being able to run an offense is something that we've wanted for a third ball handler. So if he's able to give that to Dallas in spurts, I think that's pretty something. Seeing that Seth Curry in 20 minutes scoring 13 points, obviously didn't shoot the ball. 5 of 11 is pretty good. Just didn't hit many threes. The Tim Hardaway Jr. of it all, 19 shots in 23 minutes is pretty funny. But like you said earlier, talking about Grant Williams, you wanting him to shoot the ball more, like somebody's got to shoot the damn ball.
Yeah.
And that's like the real bear that we sort of all, when this team is structured on Kyrie Irving, Luka Doncic shot attempts, you got to have somebody else willing to take the shots. And so as much as I wish sometimes they would move on from Tim fills an actual role that they need to do. So,
I mean, he can get hot. Like, he's a very hot and cold player, but he gets on those heaters and he's carried the team to wins last year.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll see kind of, I'm going to go watch this game. I'm really I'm told from, kind of asking some questions that the bench guys, Jelly Walker, who up until this game, I've really enjoyed watching, and Rashawn Holmes and kind of the other guys on the floor were really quite putrid in those final few minutes to lose the game. I think I don't know if the Mavericks have to make cuts or, put waivers in for guys on the roster before the final preseason game, which is Friday the 20th. So we basically go 10 full days between games. These guys will fly back. I'm going to be curious to see if they figure out the difference with the two-way contracts, if they want to keep the Dennis guy, if they decide to keep Walker. Mike Miles didn't play today. Thought that was particularly interesting.
I think, is he hurt? I think he's hurt.
Is he hurt?
Yeah.
No, that's on me then for being a dummy. I just, again, guys, full disclosure, I had agreed with the team to take a vacation day and go to the State Fair of Texas, as Doyle has corrected me. And we had an emergency come up, and I did not want to have us not have any content for like 14 days, at least. You come to the site for written content, but no audio content. This is my favorite from Wilfred Jr., Luka and Kyrie isn't working. Well, they've not played together, so that's they played together for 5 minutes of the first preseason game. So that's kudos for a very helpful statement there. And they also worked together just fine last year. So
we're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. One of the things I love about Indeed is it makes hiring all in one place so easy and streamlined so I can spend more time on the rest of my business. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. So the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
All right. So I want to circle back to some things that I've sort of found frustrating about this international stuff as a whole. So you are you're obviously a pretty good analyst, but you're a journalist too. You're a reporter. You write a lot for Forbes. What in the heck happened with the decision to not, as we understood it, Luka was going to play in the first half. And then right before tip off, we learned what?
Yeah, so I'd put on the broadcast, and I hadn't been on Twitter a whole lot. So Mark Stein reported before the game, right before it started, that Luka was only going to play about 5 minutes because of that calf strain. I think it's a left calf strain. This is an issue that they hadn't really.
I've never heard of it. Hadn't heard of it all.
No, it's new, and so Stein came on the broadcast. They brought him on the Bally broadcast. So, and that was, they were having some audio issues, but most of it came through that it's a new issue. It crept up after the last game in Abu Dhabi. And so I think the plan at one point, if I remember correctly what Stein said, I'm going to have to see if I can rewatch the Bally broadcast and get that audio, because I really want to hear exactly what he said, because I was working at the same time.
Sure.
Don't tell him.
We all have day jobs. I keep having to remind people of that after some off-season stuff where it's we don't do this for a living. We do this out of pure torture to self. Do we do Mavs content?
That is so true. That is the best way to put it. But yeah, he basically said that it came up kind of out of nowhere. I mean, Luka's been banged up all summer.
So how do you determine whether Luka's healthy or not? Right. What's the baseline? And
so, I think the only reason he even played today was because he really wanted to play, because it's Real Madrid, it's his former team, it's how he got his start in professional basketball, and that all makes sense. And but yeah, I don't know the extent. Stein kind of indicated that the Mavericks might not know the full extent of the injury and how good or bad the prognosis might be at this point. He also indicated that Kyrie, with his injury, they don't know how long he could be out. I mean, I think he actually used the word indefinitely. Now, that might just be for the preseason.
Right, because 10 days is a long time for injury management.
Right, yeah. And so there's a lot of time to work with stuff, especially before the start of the regular season.
And Patrick in the chat notes that Luka postgame says that it's not serious.
Okay, I haven't watched the postgame stuff, so hopefully that's true. But Luka's generally pretty honest about that type of stuff.
Yeah.
To an extent, there's
when something really hurts him, he says it's really hurting him.
Right. Yeah.
He did that after the World Cup when his thigh was bothering him. That was a month ago. And really, I like sort of sassily tweeted out the Mavericks haven't won a game since April 5th. And I don't know if you're reading the comments, Doyle, but like our fan base is itchy, as they should be, because you want to see something. Like you can wave away the losses as a general thing, but you want to see something positive. And while I'm still like very excited about specific players, I don't know. The thing I'm going to take away is at least they scored the basket today. Like they could not score against the Timberwolves. And that was like making me really uncomfortable. So like putting up 127 points is at least something. They had the 3-ball go down at least like a slightly below league average rate, like 34.8%. We want to see some victories, and it's just not great. And the questions that I sort of have here, we're never going to know this stuff. If you agree, if the NBA approaches you as a team or Luka Doncic as a thing and says, we want to do some overseas games with you. And that's so the Abu Dhabi games, NBA kind of thing, I think that's very distinct from the Real Madrid trip. But I can't help but wonder if the Mavericks kind of came to Luka and said, why don't we go play against your former team? Let's go do this. This will be fun. It'll be good for you. It'll be for Real Madrid. He talked about how if he ever, hangs it up at the NBA, he would really only go play for Real Madrid ever again outside of Slovenia. And I guess my question is, if he's not really hurt, this sort of 5 minutes, it's I don't get it. I'm not an injury management guy, but I don't get it. It's disrespectful to Luka, I think. It's disrespectful to those fans who paid tickets. 5 minutes to him. When Kyrie got taken out in the Abu Dhabi games, he only played a few minutes and then was done. The fans were chanting for him, but then we learned he had hurt his groin. So the fact that they didn't put him back in makes some sense. With this, is it going to get worse? Is a calf strain going to get worse? Mark Stein apparently, and thank you, Leo, for this. Mark Stein said on the either the pregame or the early game show that Luka got injured during yesterday's practice. I just find myself frustrated with the way this whole thing has gone. And had they won a game, would I probably feel differently? Yeah, I would. But they've gone overseas. They've lost 3 times, and they look like crap. Yeah. And I don't know whether to underreact or overreact or just kind of say, all right, we're going to sit for these next 10 days, see what happens when they play their final preseason game and hope that it's fine. I don't know what to do with this because there was already some Tim McMahon talked about this in a Hoop Collective podcast that this, the Casey Smith of it all, the fact that Scott Tomlin is moving on, there's just a little bit of weirdness around the Mavericks organization. Now, not necessarily anything negative, but change. And the change plus the losses, it just opens you up to like what's going on. I've noticed, and this is funny, the fan base is just, at least our fan base that comes in here, and I've been listening to some other shows and joining live shows like the We Talk Mavs podcast. Fans are really, really sick of Kid. And I was sick of Kid last year.
Welcome to the party.
Right. So I was sort of sick of Kid last year, and I processed all my feelings. And I'm like, Jason Kidd is attached to this team until the end of time because I think he keeps Kyrie Irving engaged. And I think until both of the Luka and Kyrie were to say, all right, this guy's gone, he's not going anywhere. So I'm choosing to basically not ignore how Jason Kidd has not seemed like a very participatory coach since the Western Conference Finals in 2022. But I past that, I'm just sort of shoulder shrug. I'm much more passionate about this than you. You've been a Mavs fan since well before me and have suffered a hell of a lot more. So you just sort of shoulder shrug at this shit. Well, what do you think about all this right now?
I mean, I had a very unnamed Mavs employee kind of point to the Casey Smith thing and also Scott Tomlin leaving and essentially be like, well, connect the dots, and left it at that. And so there's definitely something going on there.
But it strikes me more of you have new management.
No, that and I think that's exactly what it is. It's like I don't have any firm I can point fingers at who, but I have some ideas in my head as to.
Well, I mean, there's 3 options. There's Mark Cuban, there's Jason Kidd, there's Nico Harrison. It's not Mark Cuban for once.
Well,
It's not, because why would Mark Cuban push Casey Smith out?
Right. Yeah. That's like his guy. That's the trainer too.
So it's like, it's either Kid or Nico. And like, honestly, that's their right. It's their right to make changes. So I'm just kind of going to be like, all right, this is not for me, but it's none of this. It'd be a non-story if they had won 2 of these 3 games. And so we're just sort of sitting here going, what is going on with the team? And I think if it is injury based, that's just bad luck. And I don't really think there's anything you can do other than hope everyone gets healthy.
Right. And that's something Jason Kidd said, like right at the start of training camp, was the goal is for people to be healthy, especially Luka. And, to go back to, you were talking about the planned trip to Madrid and to play Real Madrid, that's something Mark Cuban promised a long time ago. So to Luka when he came. So, throwing it on to this trip, I understand logistically why, but it just maybe wasn't the right time to be overseas for that long, to when the team isn't fully healthy. I mean, I don't know. This has been a long time away. And, me and you have talked about, along with the rest of Mavs Moneyball, how poorly the Mavericks specifically get off to in the regular season after they've gone overseas in the preseason. The last time they did it was China in 2018, I think. It was, like Dennis Smith's rookie year.
That's right.
Yeah, they played the Sixers. The Sixers, at the time they came back, and I remember looking this up recently. They didn't do too bad to start the season, but they're also playing like the worst of the worst in the East. The Mavericks started off like 3-11 that season. If the Mavericks start off anywhere near 3-11 this year after this trip, you can point to the injuries, but if everyone's playing, that's bad. That's really bad. And, I've been out on Jason Kidd since like day one. Like,
we didn't want him hired. No, we were very against the hire of Mavs Moneyball. And then the problem is not the correct word. They went to the Western Conference Finals. So you're forced to sort of take a step back and say, all right, maybe he's learned some stuff. Maybe he's different. And I don't know. They can't start off badly though. There's too much heat because people, and we've talked about it on this show, the national media don't believe in Kyrie Irving. And so if that, it's not like that the Kyrie Irving pairing can't work. Because a lot of people are already out on it as a concept. It's like, my friend Ben Golliver's noted that, they had an incredible offense and yet they couldn't win anyway. And it's like, well, because they couldn't defend. I'm just like, I'm
still can't defend apparently.
And I'm really willing to give the team some rope. Now the problem comes in, and somebody, Christoph notes this in the chat. If you only have 4 preseason games, an experiment in the first one and maybe the second one, then you need to kind of play your rotation. Well, you can't play your rotation if 2 of the 5 guys aren't in. And then you also throw in sort of the frustrating elements of things like we've not even talked about very much, like the guys who have stunk. Like Omax looks like he stinks. And now I've seen him play really good basketball in summer league. So I don't think Omax stinks, but he looks like a fish out of water. And he's been really ineffective when he's been on the floor. And it's like things like that are a little off-putting. The one thing that we didn't talk about that we should have today, they gave Derek Jones Jr. the start, and he's such an odd player. He's listed as a small forward, but sometimes his best role is like small ball 5. What he is he's a good defender for players that are not bigger than him. If he could get some wing defense for the Mavericks, he's going to get some minutes. Now it's at whether he can connect on the open shots, but that's kind of his whole career. I don't know. There's just a lot to be frustrated by, and I don't blame anyone for overreacting. I just think these next 10 days in between this preseason game and the last one are going to be filled with like an unbelievable amount of spice from Mavericks fans. And that's very, very frustrating because you would have liked 20 minutes from Luka Doncic, a dominating performance, a win, be able to go out and then talk the next 10 days and basically wish cast into the future. So,
no, I mean, maybe by the time they play Detroit, they'll have some semblance of anything because I just don't know. Like the rotations outside of, even the starting lineups change constantly, but that's injuries, I'll say is part of that. But, just with Kyrie being out, and Kid throwing people in. But that's just kind of what Kid does. He just kind of throws people in. Is like, all right, figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm a basketball savant. Go out, use my brain waves, and play the basketball. And then he just sits there. And at least it looks like he's taking timeouts during the preseason. We'll see if he does that in the regular season, if that carries over. But yeah, I don't have a problem with tinkering, but they need to find something out because the defense looks terrible. They were shredded on the inside, absolutely, by Minnesota. It looked like Real Madrid couldn't miss from three for a little while. They were just hitting wide open shots.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Kid instructed them just to go out and do a gym run through preseason. Because that's kind of what it looks like. It doesn't look cohesive, but maybe there's a grand plan behind all of this. Maybe Jelly Walker, they're holding him back so that he can really come and be the third string point guard and lead them back to the Western Conference Finals.
Well, I mean, that is really what this all boils down to. Is all of this goes away if they win. All of it doesn't matter, and we're laughing about this. It just stinks to go in with like an 0-3 preseason to date and injuries, and you're wondering how serious it all is because one thing I will give the offseason, we talked about it all offseason long, they had a vision for what they were building, and I think they executed that vision.
Yeah, I think they executed it well.
And and here's what sucks is that if it doesn't work, it's not like past off seasons where we railed them for bad off seasons where they just didn't do anything.
Yeah.
In this instance, I really feel that they laid out a design. They built the team based off that design. And if the team doesn't work, what does that say? Because you just they don't have many options. I mean, there's folks in the chat. We have Patrick noting just how maddening it is watching kind of a Jason Kidd offense, and the Mavericks aren't going to show anything interesting in the offense in the preseason
not at all.
anyway.
Not in the preseason.
But Patrick makes points I agree with to where I'm just like, do they have like plays beyond Spain pick and roll? Do they have anything else? And it feels like no, because they don't run a lot of like sets. They don't run a lot of interesting actions. It's dribble, dribble, dribble. Someone goes here, someone goes there. Maybe a 3-point shot, maybe a layup.
Someone's in the corner, yeah.
And it is frustrating to watch. And I'm just sort of torn at this midpoint because the me that everyone knows and either loves or hates is just itching to tear into this shit. But I said I got to give him 10 games, and then I'm going to do that 10 to 15 games. I just got to do it. Got to do it and see. Cowboy with a really good quote down there. He says, winning cures all ills, but the Dallas culture isn't based on winning. Not anymore. It's not, man. Well, Doyle, do you got anything else that you want to talk about or would like to plug before we get out of Dodge?
I mean, I think taking that breath and taking that step back that you mentioned and giving it some time is really important and really healthy, not just in basketball, but in life. I could overreact so much, and me, like I keep my overreactions in our Slack essentially, and yes. I don't really let them out into the world. I am a well-rounded adult-ish person.
You've also suffered through some really horrendous Mavs basketball in the 90s that this just will never touch.
No, not at all. Like they're not winning like 9 or 11 games. I did like the 3 J's. I do like when I hear a George McLeod reference on the broadcast because he was like the best 3-point shooter in team history until I think maybe Jason Terry or something like that, or Seth Curry. Phenomenal shooter. So, I have like a rookie kid jersey from the team. Like, I might not be his biggest coaching fan, but
I just
when I was younger, I liked watching him play. And then, the whole meltdown of the 3 J's happened. So yeah, there's a worse path out there. And so they have 2 incredibly talented players on their team who just aren't playing right now. And hopefully they're healthy.
Right.
No matter what you think of either one of them for whatever reasons, like they're incredibly good at basketball.
Well, I just keep coming back to the fact that they needed so much to go wrong to finish 38-44, which is a different. If they win 3 more games, they're at 500, and they had utter disasters happen repeatedly from like January 1st on. I mean, I don't know. We could keep talking about this at length, but the floor of this team is higher. It's like it's missing the playoffs. Don't get me wrong. But the floor of this team is like a fairly high circle of hell, not like the deepest level of the abyss. Like I think like the floor for them is 35 to 38 wins, whereas the ceiling, if things go right, I really do like because their current over under is like 44.5, I think is what it is. 48 wins is not crazy to me. If things click and they get 65, 72 games out of Luka, Kyrie, whatever, combined, then they're going to win a lot of games. I just got to see it. I still believe until it's otherwise. And when you only see Luka and Kyrie play for 5 minutes and then not play for the rest of the preseason, I don't know what I'm not going to get too bent out of shape about it.
Yeah. There's a lot of unknowns with the team. And it's just going to have to play itself out. That's just like any other sport, any other season.
I mean, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take joy in the Lakers fans figuring out Christian Wood. It's been great. It's been fucking fantastic.
We can rib Anthony, yeah, for sure.
It's so nuts because it's like the one I told the Vengeance Wood Twitter account, the guy's a big like Christian Wood fan. I was like, you better be careful. These Lakers fans will come find you at your house. They blame you.
Meet him in Temecula.
And then, there's just stuff to be happy about. We'll see, man. It's going to be a very different season. That much I'm focused on. So,
yeah, it won't be like last season. There were a lot of frustrations for me last season with just some of the rotation and how it was used and just the pettiness that was going on within some of the egos on the team. That was the kid and Wood specifically. That was a mess, and that distraction's gone. And I hopefully that clears some things up. I'll give Kid this. I like that he is willing to play the young players. So we should be seeing Lively. We should be seeing Omax. Jaden Hardy will probably get more run this year off the bench, just as a firecracker scorer or at least chunker. Right. And I want to see that. I think that's good for the team to see those players get the chance to play at this level because, you can't just stash them. They went out of their way to get these guys.
That's right.
And I would have liked Cam Whitmore, but they didn't want him. They wanted Lively. So he's there, play him. And so, like you said earlier, play him till he fouls out. I think that's fine. He's got to learn, right? So.
Yep. Okay. I don't know when we'll be back. Josh and I will probably record something. Today's Tuesday, so maybe he and I will record something later in the week. Otherwise, maybe we'll record next Tuesday like we have been. I don't know. I gotta, it's funny with the NBA season all ahead. We got, 20, 25 people writing for Mavs Moneyball. I have to very selectively be annoying about making stuff. Now that said, if you want to read something, we have a lot in Mavs Moneyball the past couple of weeks, and we'll probably be putting up at least 2 to 3 posts a day. We're supposed to be getting up to 4 every day during the regular season. I don't mind sharing our contractual business because it's a bit of, it's a standard to be held to. So pop over to MavsMoneyball.com, read that stuff. If you would consider subscribing to the YouTube show, we tend to do a lot of live shows during the regular season. I have a lot of fun with it. Appreciate you guys taking time out of your Tuesday afternoon to hang out with us here. We will all talk soon. Everybody have a great rest of your week and go Mavs.